Okay, and my real job, I've been a banker for 39 years this month. I'm at Bank First. And about 12 years ago, I had gone through Leadership Oklahoma City 15 years ago, and about 12 years ago, they sent out an email that said, send us your pet peeves, we're going to do an etiquette class. Well, they officed across the hall from me in Oklahoma Tower. And I ran across the hall and said, who's going to teach it? And they said, we don't have anybody. And the only person in Oklahoma at that time that had gone through the protocol school of Washington was ill with a brain tumor. And I said, I can do it. Just let me do it. And I've never touched a laptop, how to put any of this stuff together, which now I can't believe I can, but not very well. As you can see, I've got duct tape on it. So I just read 25 books. My dad was a brigadier general. My family lived overseas. I sort of knew what to do. But I read books and put a class together, and I've taught my 11th class. So this year will be my 12th class, and that's the 25 to 35-year-olds that are in Royal class. Has anybody taken the Royal class? Well, this class ends up being the most fun, I promise. But we talk about all kinds of things, and that's what I really want you all to. I'm not going to be as much teaching as I am telling, and I think I realized that I could do this because I had taught money and banking in the master's program at OCU after I graduated. And I liked that so much, this just made sense because I knew I could teach something I knew about. And so I ended up going to school, studied. We're the only certified school in the United States was in Washington. And so my classmates are people that, like Abu Dhabi, the head of the security detail for the Prince, is one of my classmates. So we learned about how you do everything everywhere. And if I can, I think after I saw what was going on in our community here with the lack of rules and respect and all that, it just became something that I was really interested in helping people understand why. And when I look back at my parents and why my dad would say, do you know why your knife blade's supposed to point in? Or do you know why I'm supposed to walk on the outside of the sidewalk? And I realized I learned and I remembered because they explained why. So that's what I like to talk about with business people is more about what we're seeing, what we've got 4 or 5 generations working together now. There are expectations from one generation that aren't from another, and I like to talk about how this evolved and why it's happening and why it's important and why it's really important to your business. So I want to start with that manners and etiquette to me are kind of everywhere. Just like I have my little Kleenex, and you notice I have it in the hand that I don't shake hands with. But I said to Josh, I don't think I should do that just because I've been around all these sick people and I don't want anybody to be sick. So when you think about, you hear what's the word manners, what's the word etiquette, what's the word protocol, why are all those different? And an example might be that manners are, I'm walking through a door and I look behind me to see that someone's coming and I hold the door for them. So that's really manners and kindness. And etiquette has a whole lot to do with rules. So why is the fork? Which fork do we use? Why? If you're having a wedding, there are etiquette rules there. If you're giving a toast. And so they're just the things that have actual rules to them. And if you read the newspaper on Monday morning, we always have an etiquette section, and people write in and ask all kinds of things. And some are pertinent, some are not, some are about manners, not really etiquette. And so just think about what might have a rule to it, and we'll talk about some of those. But you also hear the word protocol. And every day I get an email from a news bureau of all the all the protocol breaches in the United States. And can you imagine how many I'm getting every day right now? So kind of want to talk about that in just a second, but I looked back at my week last week and I thought, okay, what happened to me that I experienced somebody's bad manners or etiquette, bad etiquette? And one was I attended the funeral of one of my oldest, most wonderful clients. Because again, I'm a banker, and so for 35 years, I've banked construction companies, doctors, lawyers, manufacturing companies. I have kind of a mixture of everything. Individuals, I'm building houses, I'm building strip centers, I'm doing all that. So I started asking myself, you know, what happened to me last week? So I'm at the funeral of a 99-year-old company owner that had banked with me for years. And someone's phone goes off in their purse. And do you have the app called Waze? So you know what it sounds like. And it is telling someone about the traffic update in their purse. And they can't get in their purse to get it to stop. And when they do, they actually talk back to it. And I don't know, because I don't have that app, but I hear this person talking in a funeral. Then I attend on Saturday the unexpected death of a childhood friend of mine, my age, drops dead on a golf trip. Church is packed, phone's ringing. And I'm seeing it in weddings, I'm seeing it in funerals, and so I just like to say to people, if you can't call someone and talk to them, don't take it in. You don't need it. There is an hour that's a wedding or a funeral that out of respect, you can leave it in your car. I don't even turn mine off and leave them in my purse, leave them in my car. So it was embarrassing and people felt badly about it, and so just that was just one thing. Then I have all these bags getting off the elevator, and the elevator door opens for me to get in, and this young man doesn't even look and just is obviously standing at the door and just busts out of the elevator. And I've got bags and computer and projector and all that. Well, here's an etiquette rule. You get in the elevator on the right. And I'm standing on the right, but it's hard when you bust all the way out. So you get in on the right and you kind of scoot around, because when you get off, you're going to get off on your right, so that the other people can come in, so that it just flows like this. So there are a lot of things that we do that's about flow and why things make sense. And then another one was, my stepdaughter is notorious for saying, I need some help with this paperwork, she's buying a house, can I come over at 7:30 tonight? We change our plans, we sit there, and at 7:05 she calls and says, oh, I can just ask you these on the phone. Well, I've rushed home, I've cooked dinner, I've done all these things okay, so she's notorious for that. So I've now decided that people that cancel on me, because there are people that just continually do that, and I just won't do anything with them anymore. But think about how I don't think it would have hurt her at all that was rude, and that it continues to be. Okay, so now, last Friday morning, I'm sitting in our sales meeting, and I look over and I see a new person that I don't recognize. And we probably have this many people in our sales meeting. And he doesn't look like anyone in the bank. We've got to wear suits and all that and be dressed up, except on Fridays usually. But he really looked kind of like Justin Timberlake, So I'm looking at the men that I work with saying, "Who's Justin Timberlake?" And it turns out he's a new employee. But guess what he did the whole time? He didn't listen to the bank president who went around the room to each person and said, what are you doing this week? What did you do last week? What else going on? He sat like this, brand new, and played on his phone. He was the last person introduced. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about what kind of impression that made on me, because we have subsidiaries in the bank. We have the trust department, the investment department, the insurance department that I'm asked to refer business to. And when I saw that, I thought, I'm not going to send you any business. You just already made an impression on me that I'm probably never going to talk to you. And so, because he isn't serious about his work, and to have that be your first day there. And so, those are just some of the things that I want us to talk about today. And we can't talk about what's happening today without really understanding what happened before. We didn't just wake up one day and make an etiquette book and someone sat down and said, here are all the rules. These rules go back to ancient Rome, Egypt, medieval times. Our forks and our knives have a whole lot of history with that. Our handshake has everything to do with a sword or a dagger, and what you might have up your sleeve, and why you would put your hand out to someone and they would trust you to meet you, to shake your hand. If you put it out, it meant you didn't have a dagger up your sleeve. So many of these ancient customs and rules have everything to do with trust. This one especially. Toasting. Toasting has to do with trust. You clink your glasses together. Some of the liquid was to go over into each one of the glasses. If you drank after each other, you could trust that the person hadn't put poison in your glass. And so all of these things that we do require some level of trust and respect. And so it's just like the bank knowing that they could send me to the annual chamber banquet because I knew how to eat, or I knew how to introduce myself to someone or introduce someone else. And so companies now are really serious about this training because they want that first impression of their employees to be genuine and proper. Now, George Washington, so if we go back to ancient Egypt, Rome, Confucius, you can look up several things Confucius says that all have to do with etiquette. So then we move from there to France and King Louis XIV. I'm sure you've read all about the Sun King, and he loved to have parties, and he has beautiful manicured gardens, and he has a big party one night, and people have stomped on his bushes, and beer cans are in his, not beer cans back then, but cups and things in his flower bed, and made him mad. So he put up little signs that said, keep off the grass. If you all are doing construction jobs, you probably are seeing these once the landscapers come in to finish the project. So you still will see, keep off the grass. Well, a little sign in French is also, they call it a little ticket. The word etiquette came from little ticket. So King Louis XIV is the one that coined the word for it. Well, George Washington is the one that brought etiquette to the United States. In this tiny little book, when he was 14 years old, he wrote 110 rules of civility and decent behavior in company and conversation. This is one of the most wonderful little books. Now, of course, it's written in that lingo back then that is a little hard to understand, but it still says the same things. But this is such an interesting thing for a 14-year-old to be writing that. So that's how we got etiquette in the United States. And if I had time, I'd talk about why our place settings are where they are when so many of us are right-handed, and it's really set up for a left-handed person, but we kind of made those changes. But so now we can, so after George Washington, fast forward, not 240 years, but about that long, but we've had, you hear Emily Post. Emily Post in the late 20s and early 30s, was a divorced woman. Her husband lost all the money in the stock market. She'd grown up in a wealthy family, and she was the breadwinner and raised her 2 sons by making or writing etiquette books. That family, generations later, are still in business. And so we've had some people, Amy Vanderbilt, and some people come and go like that, but not much has changed until IT came along. And you'll now read more about etiquette in business and how people do things, but in essence, nothing's really changed. Handshakes haven't changed. You still shake your hand with the right hand, and all kinds of handshakes mean different things. But now this is where we are in big trouble. Now, before January the 11th, maybe, it was a breach of protocol to tweet from the White House. And anybody else that's tweeted from the White House has gotten in trouble. And so many things have changed during the campaign that the rudeness and the level of disrespect on every front is a huge topic and concern to people now, that we're all talking about it, that people just, lawmakers just don't show up at meetings and boycott things, and it is so out of control right now. And I could, I guess, send my resume out there, but I can't imagine having that job. It'd be terrible. But someone's got to tell the protocol rules of you don't touch the Queen, you don't bow and shake hands to the Prime Minister of Japan, and all those things. And everything's running amok right now, and so no one's thinking about those things. But this is the thing that has changed, to me, has changed everything. So when, before my loyal class, leadership, Oklahoma City class every year, I do a CEO survey, because CEOs are the ones that handpick the person that goes to the class. And every year, these are their top things that bug them, that people are doing. And it doesn't matter how old you are. People are on phones and meetings. And in fact, I did some work for Devon because they had a young man that had been there since college, graduation, and he's now 35 years old, and they wanted to promote him, but he was always on his cell phone in a meeting. And I worked with him, and we took some tests and things, and we finally figured out that he was just so responsible and so overwhelmed at work, he wouldn't ask for help. He wasn't on Facebook. He wasn't texting his wife or friends or anything like that. He was so overwhelmed, he couldn't do his job and keep up, or he'd have to go home at 7 o'clock at night, far later than most people, and then have to work and not see his family. So we got that worked out, and it was just, again, a matter of communication. Clothing choices. We have this problem at the bank all the time. All the time. You all are in a whole different environment than we are. And we are constantly having to send people home. People come to work with wet hair or with a chip clip in their hair. And Tinker Credit Union had me come talk one day, and I took $250 and I went to Target, and I figured out how many outfits I could buy with $250, just to show how you really don't have to spend that much money on clothes. But it's a constant battle for us. You all, the people you all are working with expect you to be dressed like this. I've banked construction companies forever, but there are times that you do have to go to something that there are people that need help with that. Table manners. The men in the bank hate it when I go with them to anything, because we'll sit down and there'll be a table of 10, and they'll say, oh, I'm not sitting by Hilarie, I'm not sitting by Hilarie. Even Mr. Rainbow, who's our 88-year-old bank owner, says, I don't want to sit by Hilarie. And I won't tell them unless they ask. And they'll I'll ask and I'll say, well, yes, you did this. And they said, no, I didn't. And I said, yes, you did. I just saw you do it. So we're constantly arguing about that. But one of the funny things that I've liked about teaching that is a commercial real estate group had me, which was all men, but I think one woman at that time. And they all worked downtown. And I'd be walking through a hallway and I'd hear someone yell from far away, if my wife says one more time, Hillary said to do this, I'm gonna, you know, or they'll yell at me and say, salt and pepper are married. They're not supposed to be separated. So they do remember a whole lot of those rules. But emails that aren't professional. I battle with this all the time at work. Yeah, there's a period at the end of the sentence. Yep, there's a dollar sign that goes in front of that 2,000. And so that's just a huge concern too. RSVP. I actually work with people that don't know RSVP means a client, let's say a client's having a Christmas party and they've invited us. RSVP means call and tell me if you're coming or not, because I'm going to buy food and wine and all that, and a band and all these things for you, whether it's a wedding or a client party or not. They just think they don't have to say anything unless they decide 2 days before they're coming. So a lot of people have gone to regrets only. If you had an open house or something, regrets only, and they're going to count you just so they don't have to deal with all that. But it means respond yes or no, whether you're coming or not. Introductions. This is where protocol comes in. So we've got manners that are kindness and respect, and rules. There are etiquette that has rules, but protocol is rank. So whether it's military rank or whether it's a medical protocol, you hear that sometimes. What is a protocol for that chemo drug or something? So it is a series of steps or a ranking of something. So in introductions, this is something real important that some people don't think about either. There are 4 things, and if you want to write them down, you can. But number 1 is the higher ranking person's name is said first. So in 4 different instances that you all would come across would be, okay, so higher ranking would be age. So grandma, this is my friend Josh. I'd like to introduce you to Josh. Josh owns a construction company. You tell something about the person. So grandma's name is said first because she's the oldest. Then the second thing you have, if you have women involved, women come first. Now, you might have a problem thinking which one might be older or not, but don't worry about that. And if it's real obvious, then if it's sort of grandma, then you know. And then the third, so you would say, Paula, I'd like to introduce you to all my friends. Then if, let's say, I'm standing in the lobby with Mr. Rainbolt and I have a new assistant. Well, Mr. Rainbolt's the highest ranking person, so I say, Mr. Rainbolt, this is my new assistant, Becky. Becky just started at the bank, but I've known her for 30 years, blah, blah, blah. The last one and the most important is your client's the higher ranking person. So let's say I'm standing in the lobby with Mr. Rainbolt and my client walks in. I say, Mr. Client, I'd like to introduce Mr. Rainbolt. Mr. Rainbolt's the CEO of the holding company of the bank. He's the one that started the bank, blah, 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 blah. So, age, female, internal, higher ranking person, client always. So those things are protocol because they have to do with rank. Here is one of my biggest buggers. And I watch the Today Show every morning when I get ready for work. And it's, hey Matt, hey Natalie, hey everybody. And I can remember as a kid, if I ever said hey, my mom would have said horses eat hay. Instead of hello, hi, whatever. This is an epidemic like. And hey, guys, and super excited, I'm super tired, I'm super da 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 da. And super knows no age right now. So I want you to just listen to people and you'll be shocked who's saying super and what they're adding super to. I don't know why you can't just be tired or excited. You have to be super excited. And they don't look any different to me when they say it. So awesome has sort of worn out. It's welcome, I guess, and like is still around a little bit, but super and hey and guys are the new like. So I would just recommend, and especially, I'm a woman, and someone would say, hey guys, to a bunch of women. So I would just work on that part of it. Another one is people, I actually had this happen. I'm on a statewide board, and we had a horrible legal issue, and we had to hire one of the biggest law firms in town. Female lawyer comes in to give this board a presentation with her sunglasses on top of her head. And so, just like my phones, I leave them in the car, or I put them in a little case in my purse. I don't walk around like this with that on my head. Business cards. There's really there are probably 4 or 5 business card rules. And if you all hand out business cards, the very first rule is you need to ask permission to give one. May I give you my card? You don't go to you don't go to a chamber thing and meeting and go hand them out like cards in a group. It's a very orchestrated thing that you do. You want to keep them clean, you want to keep them well stocked. I always ask for cards. I still like cards. I don't say, get my phone out and say, send me your contact information. I'll go back to my office and put it in. But why I like cards is I may go meet a new customer that tells me a lot of things about their personal life, their business, and all that. And the minute I finish, I get in my car and I write down, okay, kids getting ready to go to college, wants to build a house. You know, I write down those things so I remember. And it's been helpful to me, and then I can make a file for the person. But mainly we have a problem, and men have a problem because you all have billfolds. And when you look at your cards, the first one usually has a line of dirt right across it because that's the first thing that's open. So maybe put those behind something. We're lucky we have purses and probably have 25 card cases in our purse. But this, going back to the young man that came into our sales meeting, I found an article in the paper. I'm constantly cutting out things, and this was in the Oklahoma a couple of months ago, and it says, give others a second chance with first impressions. And it was right next to the Monday etiquette section too. You know, I bet everybody in here could say, I met somebody one time, I didn't like them, or I was offended by them, and then I had to be around them more, and I felt differently. But if I told you that you have 7 seconds to make a first impression, and 67% of the time it's right, and instead of thinking about that, being a numbers person, I focused on what about the 33% that they are wrong about me. And so those are the things that make you want to give someone another chance, which I think I'll have to give Justin Timberlake another chance at work. But we're judged probably 11 times in a 1-hour meeting, and judged from everything. The tone of our voice, which is a huge thing, what we say, how we stand, what we wear, everything. So someone's constantly trying to size you up and figure you out. And especially because you all are doing exactly what I'm doing. We're salespeople. Everybody in this room is a salesperson. And what's going to make the difference for you to go down the street to my bank first or to be okay? Because if my stuff costs the same and I have the same experience, then what is it? What's it going to be? And those are things as a company we talk about, because you've got branding and you've got networking and negotiating and communicating, whether it's on paper or via the phone or email. What makes you get a job that Stan Lingo didn't get, or that Hybrids Construction Company didn't get, or that Smith & Pickle didn't get? And those are things to really focus on what sets you apart. And I believe in 39 years that I've gotten really good business and loyal old clients because of some of these things. And so I think it's the critical thing, besides your bid and somebody else's bid, is how you treat your customers and your personality and just being around you in general, because etiquette and manners is really just it's a comfort level. If you know what you're supposed to do, then you don't have to think about it. I don't have to think about what fork or what knife or why my knife's on this side of my plate or any of that. I've done it enough, I don't have to, and so it takes a lot of practice. So then I can focus at a business lunch on how I'm going to get that customer from be okay. And I'm not worrying about these other things, because it really comes down to our confidence in ourselves, our experience, that we have to impart on someone and get them to believe it and to trust us. And so these things do make a huge addition to what you're trying to do. Your smile, if you smile at someone, they can't not smile. And so that's really important. So if you're walking into an event, your posture is your first line of communication. And my whole life, I remember my mom telling me to stand up straight and all that. And it really is true, because it says you're confident and experienced and you feel good about yourself. And when you are, and what you're wearing and all those things play a role in what you're projecting to someone. Your name tag. This is one of the things that, the only thing I could figure is that most people are right-handed and they open the name tag and they just slap it over here. But it really goes over here. And it goes over here because you're shaking your hand and someone can see your name here. So I've told you a couple of things that happen on the right. So keep that. If that's the one thing you walked away from today, I want you to remember that. Your handshake.